Hey everyone, Steven here, and today I'm reviewing the Razer Barracuda X wireless headset. Like all of my other headset reviews, I'll be using the microphone on the headset for the entire video and not just a small sample. This does mean that there will most likely be some occasional popping as this is the raw audio, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what this will sound like if you purchase it. As always, let's get into the specs first, and then I'll cover what I like, don't like, and the gray area stuff before wrapping everything up. This has been one of the most difficult headsets to review that I've done because there are so many things this has going on with it, so the structure here is the same as my other videos, but it may seem a little different, specifically in the gray area section. With that being said though, let's get into the specs. The Barracuda X wireless headset is a multi-platform wireless headset that features 40mm Triforce drivers, 20 hours of battery life, and only weighs 250 grams. The frequency response is 20 Hz to 20 kHz, the impedance is 32 ohms, and the sound pressure level sensitivity is 96 decibels. This has a detachable hyperclear cardioid microphone with a unidirectional pickup pattern. The microphone frequency response is 100 Hz to 10 kHz with a sensitivity of -42 decibels plus or minus 3 decibels. This has a USB Type-C connection to recharge the battery and uses a USB Type-C 2.4 GHz connection dongle to connect to your PC, Nintendo Switch, or Android phone. If you don't have a USB Type-C port, this does have a USB to USB Type-C connection cable. For other connections, like for an Xbox, you can use the 3.5mm analog cable. On the left pad, you will find all of the controls and ports. For buttons, you have the power button, volume scroll wheel, and mute button. For ports, you have the USB Type charging port, microphone port, and 3.5mm headphone jack port. This costs $99.99 with discounts dropping this down to $79.99 on Amazon on occasion. Moving on, let's cover what I like about this headset, starting with the sound as this sounds really good. It isn't the best wireless headset I've used in terms of the sound quality, but I would still put it in the upper portion of my list. This is solely based on the stereo sound, which is what this will do by default. This is capable of surround sound also, but that comes with a catch that I will cover later. Next, this is one of the lightest wireless headsets I've used. The ROG Strix Go was the previous title holder at 252 grams, but this is a whole 2 grams lighter and $100 cheaper. This does mean this is mostly plastic, so no throwing this around in a rage as it will most likely break. Comfort and weight for headsets are something I always look for. I don't like lots of pressure on my head because it gives me headaches, and this is very comfortable even for longer play sessions. The ear pads are soft and feel good for long play sessions, and they're over-ear pads also, which I personally prefer. I'm not a big fan of on-ear pads, and the ROG Strix Go was like that. So between the size and the material, I think these feel really good. Last, a big draw here is going to be the cross-platform ability that this actually has, so I can use this with my PC, Xbox, or Nintendo Switch instead of being locked into just one platform, which I think is really great. You can use this with an Android phone. I don't personally have an Android phone, I have an iPhone, and you can use this with PlayStation also, which I still haven't been able to get my hands on one unfortunately, so I couldn't test it for this video. Next, we have the negatives, which I really only have two standouts here, which the first one is you can't check the battery life. There's no way to do that with this headset. And there's also no way to adjust the microphone outside of in-game or through some sort of separate app that you may get. For the battery, you'll just have to wait for this to warn you it's low on power or for it to just die. The battery life is pretty solid at the 20 hours, but I want a way to actually monitor this unless I plan to plug this in to charge it every night. The lack of software here, which I will cover more in the gray area, means there's no way to adjust the time you want this to go idle to save battery life also, which by default is 5 minutes. For the microphone, this isn't the loudest by default, so I found myself always adjusting it in-game. This was actually very apparent with recording audio for this video also. So in post, I actually had to increase the gain on this by 10 decibels just so I could get this to a comfortable level where you could hear it. Otherwise, it was extremely quiet. It would actually be hard to hear if I just exported and uploaded this to YouTube. Even at full blast, it would sound like I was almost whispering. Now, once you make the adjustment, whether it's in post for a video like this one, or if you're adjusting it in game, or if you're using a console, you can make these adjustments. It does sound good. It is fine. It does sound a little bit tinny. That's to be expected with a wireless headset microphone. It kind of sounds very similar to the other ones that I've used and reviewed. But I think by default, I would just like this to have just a greater boost in the sound where it doesn't sound quite so quiet. And then I'm needing to make those adjustments every time that I actually switch to the different consoles or a PC or a different game or anything like that. Moving on, let's cover the gray area, which are things you may or may not care about, and this is going to be the largest section of the video. The biggest one I want to cover is the lack of any software and the 7.1 surround sound. The lack of software here could be an upside for some people not wanting to worry about updating drivers or messing with settings, but this also means there is a lack of EQ customization. Now, there is a way to remedy this with the THX software, but you'll need to purchase this for $20. This can be discounted to $10 if you buy the headset from Razer's website, and if you are patient and get the headset on sale, it could even out. This is currently $80 on Amazon, and the extra $20 for the software would bring everything up to the normal price of $100. I've even seen this as low as $70 on Amazon, so that's something to look out for in terms of sales. I'm not sure if you can buy this on Amazon and then still get the $10 off the software without needing to email Razer directly, as there was no way to verify my purchase through my Razer account for my purchase, which I did on Amazon. The THX software does offer a large amount of customization with the audio, and a big upside is you can actually use this with other headsets, not just the Barracuda. I've been using the THX software with my Philips headset, and it sounds great with that too. A side note about this is that it doesn't do anything for the microphone, just the audio. Now, the THX app only applies to PC, so keep that in mind, and this is where this all gets a little bit tricky to lay out. For Xbox players, you can utilize Windows Sonic to enable surround sound, but you can't customize the audio, and there isn't a way to use this wirelessly. You can only use this with the 3.5mm headphone jack, which you actually have to plug into your controller. On PC, you can use the Windows Sonic also, but in a wired or wireless mode. You can also customize this a little bit by tweaking some of the settings in the volume properties for the headset. For Nintendo Switch players, you are stuck with stereo only from what I've been able to play with this. From what I've read, some games might allow surround sound, but if they do, I don't actually own any of those to try out, so this has just been in stereo for me. For PlayStation 5 players, and I believe this would apply to PlayStation 4 as well, the 3D audio should work with this to create surround sound, but I don't actually have a PlayStation to try this out on and confirm that. My assumption here with the software being separate is that Razer is actually licensing the THX software, and instead of being out of pocket, they're passing the cost onto the consumer. To me, this seems similar to what you can do on Xbox, where you can actually just buy the Dolby app and then apply surround sound to any headset that you're using with it. I think that even works through like sound bars and things like that. Now, I almost put this in the negative section because it's an extra cost, but you don't actually have to buy this, and the headset does sound great without it. With all of that being said, though, how does this sound with the THX software? I personally think it sounds great, and I can tell a big difference between all of the audio profiles, which you have the spatial audio, environmental mode, and competitive mode. You also have the EQ settings with presets and custom profiles you can create along with bass boost, sound normalization, and vocal clarity. All of these have very distinct tweaks to the audio profile they make and makes it very apparent this is working. You can calibrate these also to make sure you have the best distance and volume for the 7 channels. For PC, this does sound better than the Windows Sonic and has a much richer sound to it over that. Going from plain stereo to Windows Sonic, this is actually noticeable, and for most people, I think that will actually be plenty for them. It does sound a little more flat than the THX, but you can enable bass boost and virtual sound in the speaker properties tab for the headset, and that helps. So it does cost extra, but you don't have to buy it, and it can be used with any of your other headsets or speakers. I've personally been using this with the Philips headset, like I mentioned earlier, and I think it does sound pretty good with that. As great as this sounds though, not everyone will actually use it with other headsets, especially if you don't have multiple headsets, and it doesn't work at all when transferring over to consoles. Why not just build this into the headset like I've seen with other headsets on the market and allow this to actually work not only with PC but with consoles as well, as it seems a little bit unfair to them. With that being said, that will depend on consoles as the Nintendo Switch only has stereo. You may have surround sound depending on the game, like I mentioned earlier, while the Xbox Series X can utilize Windows Sonic surround sound, and that actually does sound pretty good. It's more comparable. It almost seems like it sounds better on consoles than it does on PC when it comes to that. From what I've read, the 3D surround sound for PlayStation does work with these. I haven't been able to test it though, so I can't confirm that. There is a risk there. So with this, I'm just really torn. You don't have to purchase this at all, but it gripes me that it's an extra cost and that it only works on PC. I could see this being great for some people not wanting to mess with the software if they don't want to buy the THX surround sound, but it also means a lack of any customization, and the sound will be set when playing on consoles that don't allow for any audio adjustments. Let me know what you guys actually think in the comment section here about this because I'm curious to see what the overall consensus is with the THX software. Last, the cables here are a unique style I haven't seen before. They're rubber, but it's different from regular rubber cables. They do seem more durable than regular rubber cables and have tiny grooves you can feel in them, but it's actually hard for the camera to pick up on. I like that they're not standard rubber cables, but they aren't as flexible as threaded cables, which I personally would have preferred. So for this, I think it might just be a minor nuisance depending on whether or not you need to use the 3.5mm headphone jack. So you actually have this connected via a cable to whatever you're using it with. So it could be the Xbox controller, or maybe you have something that still uses that cable. If you're using it wirelessly, that doesn't matter. And then other than that, the USB Type-C cable, that's just for charging this. So usually I'm not charging this and then using it at the same time. I kind of let it charge on its own. But if you do have an instance where you're trying to charge it and still use it, that may be one of those things where in the moment it is just a minor nuisance for you. So that's going to wrap this video up. Overall, I am extremely happy with this headset, and out of all of the other Razer headsets I've used, this is definitely my favorite. It has some downsides to it, but the overall sound quality, cross-platform compatibility, and lightweight make this a great headset. For me personally, I am happy with my purchase of the THX software, and if I bought this on sale for the $80 and then bought the software for $20, I would consider this a great deal as you would break even with the normal price of the headset while still getting the software if you're on PC. For console players, this is a great option also, and if you have an Android phone, this could be a great option for you as well, especially if you actually own different things. So if I was a console player and I had like a PlayStation and an Xbox and a Nintendo, and then maybe I had an Android phone, you could actually utilize this with all of those. So I think that makes this a really good option. I'll actually have a link for this in the description if you want to pick this up. If you have any questions about this though, let me know in the comment section. Well, that's actually going to be it for this one. If you like the video, hit the like button for me. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.